Welcome back to Forza Will 101. Today's lesson, abilities and effects. Abilities are the parts of a card that cause something to happen. They fall into three categories: continuous, activate, or automatic. It's also important to point out that abilities usually cause an effect, and effects can be continuous, one-time, or replacement effects. We'll touch more on these different types of effects in a bit. Activate abilities are put on the chase by the player by paying the cost. They look like this on a card. When the cost is paid, the ability will go on the chase for both players to respond to. When the ability resolves, it applies its effect to the game, so in our case, giving all resonators your opponent controls -2/-2 until end of turn. Automatic abilities are described as having a trigger condition, which when met causes an effect. It looks a little like this. When the trigger is met, the ability will go on the chase and both players will have the chance to respond. When the ability resolves, it will apply its effect to the game, such as in our example, drawing a card. Continuous abilities apply their effects as long as the ability is active. They do not create a chase when being applied, but will begin applying the effect as soon as the card with the continuous ability is placed into the field successfully. It is important to note that abilities that produce will can be an automatic or activate ability, but if it needs no target, then it does not use the chase. Moving on to effects. One-time effects are performed when they resolve, such as the previous example of drawing a card. Continuous effects are applied as long as the card is active. This card's -2/-2 effect is an example of a continuous effect. Multiple effects can be active at the same time, and there is a specific order for applying them, but to read more on that, I recommend reading the CR, as it can get pretty complex. A link to the comprehensive rules is in the description of this video. Replacement effects are applied and create a new situation, so that the original situation never occurs. It's usually followed by instead in the ability description, and looks a little like this. So for example, this card would deal -2/-2 to all resonators your opponent controls, unless you have 4 runes revealed, at which point it is replaced to do -4/-4 instead. Knowing what types of abilities are what, and how different effects are applied and resolved is important, so be sure to read your cards carefully before applying their effects. That does it for this episode. Feel free to click the video on the screen to go to the next lesson, or click on a video in the playlist to jump ahead. Until then though, class dismissed.